Hello, gamers.
It has
It has
been a while.
been like 2 days, I think.
Yes, 2 days in the Shadowfell equals 6 months in reality.
And it equals 4 minutes in our world, and also when you go to Ardenfield, it's like I don't know, like it's like 2 days there. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
time conversion too well
I
across the
mean,
planes.
time is relevant. You just make up whatever you want at this point.
Very true. Well, welcome back to our incredibly based podcast that pops up every 15 weeks. For those who
That's
don't
right.
know, I am Summon Skull. I am the Blood Elf on the right, and I am Alex.
That is who he is.
And the man you see behind me, that is Captain Titus. But he is the representation of my brother Chris. And get your introductions out of the way.
Yeah, the true meme lord, as always. Here I am. You can stop looking now.
But like, don't, because look how pretty his eyes are.
Yeah, behind those sunglasses.
So we got a couple of things going on here today. I don't think we're gonna get to a tier list today.
Potentially.
Potentially.
We can always save a tier list for another day.
I mean, we've gone for the couple tier lists we've done. Those are like hour 40 minutes just by themselves. So
yeah,
it would not
that's
surprise me.
We are very in-depth individuals, and we have to get our correct opinions out.
Yeah. By the way, correct opinions. That's important.
I know what I said.
So let's just kind of go down the order that you had given me earlier today, and start off with just like some Warhammer stuff, man. Like let's talk Warhammer, as you put it. Whoa, it's Warhammer.
Yeah, it is.
Is there anything that's caught your eye recently?
I mean, not like so. I was really into the Dawnbringer story since the beginning. That was kind of like the Age of Sigmar, or the latest Age of Sigmar campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really enjoying a lot of the early story. And I think I slowed down, and it wasn't because I was disinterested. It was just because life started getting crazy, because we do have a baby on the way that's going to be born in like 3 months.
Baby!
So, yeah. So, life's been a little crazy. I haven't been able to read and purchase things as much.
This guy trying to make up excuses.
Yeah, I'm full of it, man. But I stopped at the Reign of the Brute, which was the King Trug stuff. And
yes.
I love me some Troggoths. These big stinky boys, man. They're just so goofy, and I if I was gonna pick anything out of the orcish / goblinoid armies of Age of Sigmar, it would be these big doofy morons. Like
they've been cool ever since they were like put in with the goblins. Like they're so funny.
They are really funny, and the fact that like when third edition Age of Sigmar came out, and they had essentially a way for you to make an entire army of Troggoths and give your Dankhold Trog boss like a ton of special artifacts, and they have weird names such as like Big Shiny or something like that. It's just like a relic that gives you a ward save.
Yo, are they gonna have Big Chungus?
Yeah, well, that's King Trug, man. He is Big Chungus incarnate.
Very true, very true.
And his abilities are pretty gnarly, because all of the Troggoths, I mean, they're essentially just trolls, but copyright to make money, they can't call them trolls.
Facts.
They all heal like passively, like a regular troll would. So having King Trug and playing Trug's Troggoths or Trog Herd or something like that, it actually accelerates the healing of all of your Trogs. So you just have this. I mean, yeah, they've got basically no saving throw. I believe all of them have at least the Rock Gut Trogs, I believe, have a 5-up ward, just because they have that old too dumb to die rule, but it's not called that anymore.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah. Back in second edition and first edition, there was a rule called too dumb to die, and it just gave you a 5-up ward.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Um, I guess technically it wasn't in second and first edition. It was in third edition, but because they didn't have their battle tome yet, they just gave them the free rule update of too dumb to die to give them the ward. But now they've got something else. I don't remember exactly what it was called. But yeah, so I've been kind of like obsessed with wanting to get more Trogoths. I actually, within the app, because the Age of Sigmar app is way better than the 40k one.
That's not even controversial. That's just true.
It is, yeah. I'm just stating a fact at this point. 40k is having, again, I'll get into my thoughts on 40k here in a little bit. But just
Yeah,
as
we want to focus on the positives here.
Yeah, I want to start with my uppers and then get to my downers. But like, like just a quick little, offhand stab attack. 40k 10th edition was really fun for like the 3 games that we played, but now it's doing exactly what 40k always does and having problems like usual. They'll come out with beautiful looking models like all the new Kroot stuff, which we'll again touch on that in a little bit. But like, I don't know what it is. Like 40k is always stuck in this endless loop of new edition comes out. It's super fun because everything's baselined, and then codices start coming out, and things that weren't found in playtest start emerging, and the meta watch comes out, which I mean there's meta everywhere, but it's just terrible in 40k. And then the game is just doesn't have an identity again.
I think the main issue, and like I've talked with you about this, and it's not crazy to say the codex model is just too old.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not modern, and if 40k wants to be a modern game, like it's desperately trying to be right now, it needs a modern model. And I hate being the one to tout for subscription models, but if that's the way to do it, that's the way to do it. Especially it gives you the chance to update often. It gives you the option to release things like new, free, open to everyone that they can use. Battlescribe is already doing this. Like, why not take ownership of that, and then you can use that data for whatever they need to use?
See, I disagree with that in a way that I see the problem that I have with modern Warhammer now is that your codex isn't a secure purchase anymore. Because they are constantly updating the game every three friggin' months. Like you buy your book and then 3 months later, because of a balance issue, because they only focus on the competitive scene now, points changes, there's X amount of wounds that are added to this thing, or you can only have this many in a unit, and it's just, that's a problem to me. I don't think that I should, like, say with the subscription service and I get every codex ever, which is a good thing. I think that is a deal, but solely doing that because the game is updating so much, the other half of that solution, or the other side of that solution, is just go back to the way that it used to be, where you bought your codex and it was good for like a year or two, and then they updated with something else, whether it be like the chapter approved, or they update it with because Age of Sigmar does the general's handbooks, and that doesn't always change point values. Like usually it's like just a campaign thing. And that happens once a year. Like once a year you get a new general's handbook. You can use it or you cannot. It's up to you. I suppose you could kind of use that argument for 40k as well, but I just think that 40k has a really hard identity crisis when it comes to how it wants the game to be played and who should be more important for that game, whether it be the casual players or the hardcore players or the tournament players.
I think another issue, like, and the way I was trying to say it earlier, it's like I agree with you. I like the secure purchase with my purchase of a codex because yeah, it was good for like a year. The other downside is that the campaign books, while I did like all the supplements and the campaign books, it did end up being a lot more books than what was probably needed. Um, but I do think that if we're looking at it realistically of what GW could potentially do, there's no chance they're going to go back because they like the updates. And I mean, we got FAQs in the past. I mean, in all honesty, most of the time we just chose to ignore the FAQs, at least in our little group. But I think if they really do want to take themselves seriously and have this update every 3 months model for balance issues and try to make 40k a perfectly balanced game, then yeah, that's the method they have to use as like a subscription model. It's the ownership of maybe not even ownership, but allowance of rules rather than ownership of the book. Is that what I want? No, but I think that's the most realistic direction for them to go if this is what they want 40k to be.
I don't know. I just feel like there's better ways that have been done in the past, and I know there's a lot of people that didn't like the supplement books back in 7th edition, but I think it's a better solution than catering to the competitive players. But I mean, I've been out of 40k for so long now that maybe I'm just an old man spouting and trying to gatekeep, but I don't feel like I'm being that way. But who knows? Maybe I am to somebody.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it could be. Hell, I might be gatekeeping people. Like it's so hard to, especially when you don't hear the feedback. How do you know when you're gatekeeping someone or when you're just passionate about something? I think in all of our rants previously, even in our little intro where you say me when GW, like it's not coming from a place of you're gonna go up to some random kid who wants to get into the game, smack the model out of his hands, and says you can't play the Space Marine Army. It's you being like, you absolutely should. But it's you saying, I dislike the direction of where this is going, and I think it could be better. That's not gatekeeping. You're not telling people to not play this game or not buy the models, not do any of this. You're simply saying, this can be better.
Yeah. It's true. I guess to kind of get back to the good again, because that was a really long branch into my problems with 40k.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like Reign of the Brute, I was Dawnbringers is cool. I really enjoy a lot of the new. Actually, I enjoy all of the new models that have come out since Dawnbringers started. Even for the armies that I really don't play, they still release a lot of gorgeous models for Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar is just in a really good spot right now. I mean, since 3rd edition, Age of Sigmar came out, they've been in a really good spot. And that could just be me fanboying, but I think, like, competitively... It
absolutely is him fanboying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, like, competitively, it's good. I think story-wise, it's good. I think it's doing really well with its release timing. So I've been loving these Troggoths and stuff, but when Flesh Eater Courts got announced in, I think it was like beginning of autumn, they got announced and they started showing some of their new models, and then the set that like the special edition set got shown in November, and then they finally released it in December, perfectly in time for Christmas. And I had been waiting for Flesh Eaters to be a thing, like to get there, because they were the last army that needed a battle tome. And I've been waiting for this because I wanted a death faction, because the hope is and dream is that I have one of every faction, and I have a ton of I think I have 3 chaos factions, 2 destruction factions. I have an order faction, but I really don't want them anymore. And it's not that Stormcast Eternals are not cool. I think they're cooler than Space Marines, that's for sure. But there's so many other order armies that I think would fit my playstyle a little bit better.
Yeah.
But and then I have what, 2 destruction? Yeah, I think I have 2 destruction armies, ogres, and then now this Trogoth, Trog herd. So I've been waiting for a death army, and I was pretty close to starting my own Night Haunt faction.
Yep, I
Uh,
remember that.
so that because my wife plays a lot of uh she plays a lot of like the Banshee units, which aren't bad. It's just not how I would play my Night Haunt. Like I want to play the Bladegeist Reapers, or not Reapers. Yeah, Bladegeist, something like that.
Something like that.
It's the Reapers with the swords instead of the scythes. Bladegeist Revenants, that's what they're called. And I think, from what I've seen in battle reports with those guys, is they're not super great. But I just like the idea of all of these ghosts with swords coming at you, and then having your Knight of Shrouds buff them. I mean, it's like they have the potential to hit really, really hard, but it's sort of a 50-50. But that's kind of like every army that I play. It's either going to do really, really well, or you're going to get bored in turn 3, you know?
And most of the time when you're playing with me, you're doing really well.
Yeah, it depends. Like there's always an objective in each of the games.
Yeah,
Whether
I know.
whether I choose to play that objective or not, differs from what I'm playing. Like I know my Beasts of Chaos or my Blades of Corn, those things are just, or even my Ogres, you just rush the enemy, and then
Rush, kill, soup.
yeah, and then secure objectives after everything is dead.
Yeah, it comes afterwards. You don't need to worry about that.
But yeah, so I was really excited when Flesh Eater Courts got all of their announcements, and then I was even more excited, fanboying, when Usharin got announced, and his model is amazing. It looks
It's a beautiful mini.
so good. And he's only been a Mortarch in lore like since Mortarchs became a thing. So I want to say that was the end times was when they started talking about like Von Karsting and Neferata being Mortarchs, and the other guy I never remember.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who basically like bends over for Nagash every day.
What? Never.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, so he was, again, just like the Flesh Eaters, the last to get their battle tome. He was the last to get a model at all, and it just looks fantastic, and I want it so
take
bad.
That, nerds.
And yeah, so thanks to you, because of Christmas, I had the Flesh Eater Court Special Edition box.
Such a steal getting that, because you almost didn't get it.
Yeah. And then what was it? And then I got a couple more Flesh Eater Court things down the line. So, I'm hyped. I'm hyped to play these guys. I'm hyped to build them. And I think Age of Sigmar is in a good spot now that we're going to have our first full year of every army having battle tomes. And I'm sure we'll probably get our next general handbook come summertime, which, whatever. Fine with that. If they want to do new general handbooks every year and it adds in a new way to play, because the one from 2 years ago, I believe was like the big Gur, the big Gur one where it all took place there. And then this last one takes place in like a wintry area. I can't remember exactly what the area was called, but yeah, it's basically like this giant snow realm, and it's also very magic heavy. So there's a lot of extra spell casting, stronger magical artifacts, and then for armies that don't have any magic, really powerful artifacts to counteract magic. So who knows what this next general handbook would bring. And what's nice is that, because the game really doesn't change, you could play any one of those general's handbook scenarios, and essentially be playing the same game the whole time.
Yeah, that's one of the really good things about Sigmar. I do appreciate Sigmar's ability to change slightly. Like they don't want to change everything. Like we're not talking like a 6th to 7th edition 40k. It's more like we'll just add a couple things here and there, change some points around, done.
Yep. I like
And
that.
I dig that.
Sigmar has always been really good with that when it comes to adding instead of replacing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like that a lot.
I do too. If I may, you mentioned it earlier about the Kroot army or the new Kroot models. I shouldn't
Yeah.
just say army.
Yeah,
But the new Kroot
I mean, it
models.
is essentially with all the new models that it came out with. You can essentially play Kroot, straight Kroot.
Oh, absolutely. And if I do, here's my thing. I want to play 40k. I really do. I love the lore of 40k. Even when it's bad, I'm still reading it. And I obviously it's the game we've been playing the longest, and I have a hard time getting rid of the minis for it. I love 40k, and there was a time when when what are we on 9th edition right now? 10th edition? 10th edition.
10th edition.
I know 10th edition, when it was coming out, we were incredibly hyped, and I thought about Tau. I thought about going back to Tau to try that out, and God, it pains me because I really want these Kroot, and I really want to play with them, but there's just no way I'm going to be playing 10th edition Warhammer.
Yeah. Well, so my whole thing is I'm looking to get rid of most of the stuff that I don't use. So I don't play a lot of 40k, and I had gotten rid of one of my armies already. I want to say it was early last year. There was a guy at work who actually only worked there for about a month, so I got pretty lucky that he wanted to buy the army from me.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them I got rid of already. So I'm looking to get rid of basically the armies that I know I'm not going to play, so that I can utilize the space first off, because it'll be nice to clear out my closet full of projects, and then
Yeah.
it would also be nice to utilize some of that money towards not hobby stuff, and then also two armies that I am actually playing.
Right,
Um,
totally.
and that would be swell. I'm looking to get rid of my own Tau because I don't want to play him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to get rid of my Imperial Guard. I'm looking to get rid of. I think there was one more 40k faction because I don't have. Oh, my Dark Eldar. Because
Yeah.
those three armies I'll never play. I'll never play
You
them.
were very hyped for Dark Eldar for a while, and then it just kind of fell off.
Yeah, in 7th when they were fun.
Oh, 7th edition. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think the Kroot models look fantastic. I think that Kroot getting more attention is really good for not only Tau lore, but also just for the game's health, because it reminds me of how like when Harlequins got their own codex, and while Kroot
Yeah.
aren't getting their own codex, it's really cool that they're getting representation.
Hmm.
But it'll probably be one of those things that I would buy and never play. Kind of like my Sisters of Battle. Ba-da-da.
Yeah. I think you would play them though. Like if you actually if we actually put the time into playing 40k like we do Age of Sigmar, which that also we don't get a chance to play very often.
That's true. So I'll move off from the topic for right now. So you had mentioned earlier about your that you built your Trigoths and you're ready to build all of your Flesh Eater courts. For those wondering about my progress and my slow grow, I've made none.
Yeah. Yeah, the slow grow thing, like I don't even remember what the last thing was. Like we had finished our Beast of Chaos, or my Beast of Chaos, and you finished your uh Slaves of Darkness. And then we had a couple games with them, had a good time. I mean, maybe I had actually thought about starting up a battle report, not necessarily channel, but like a battle report segment on Blizz Bizz.
Sure.
And I thought it would be really cool because I haven't seen anything for it online, And if like for the people that are just in it for the battle report and the people that are playing it and not in it for looking at shiny new painted models, I was thinking about doing battle reports with our unpainted gray models and calling it gray battle report Gray March.
That could be kind of fun. That's a
Yeah.
good thing to keep in mind. Let us know in the comments if you want that.
But yeah,
Oh god.
no, that's fine. Go ahead.
So I was going to ask you. There's one more Warhammer thing that I have on my list that I'd like to hear your thoughts on. What
Sure.
do you think of the new Old World box, or boxes, I should say?
I don't know. I mean, they're cool. It's a good way to start your Warhammer Fantasy army if you don't have one.
I like that because I remember a while ago there was like a talk that like it was a back and forth talk. Oh, we're gonna do Old World. Oh, Old World just got canceled and delayed. No, we'll do Old World again. Actually, we're just gonna release Total Warhammer 3. And there was this back and forth about whether they were going to do Old World or not. And it's cool to see that they're doing it. And I do like that the two armies that they introduced are the two that are basically died off with the Tomb Kings and Bretonia.
Yeah.
As a sort of, we know guys are bad.
Yeah.
But I thought they looked cool. I love Bretonia, so I'm a little biased on that, but it's cool seeing that. There was a time period where we were going to try out Warhammer Fantasy, and then like a week later they're like, by the way, the Age of Sigmar is coming.
Yeah. And then we were all about that.
And they were like, well, I guess getting these codex were dumb. Oopsie
Yeah,
doopsie.
I mean, it is what it is. But I think it's fine the way that it ended up because Age of Sigmar is awesome.
Totally.
But as it comes for Slow Grow, yeah, we finished those two for the most part. They're not at the 2,000 point limit, but we easily have the 1,000 points.
Oh, no doubt.
Actually, I think I am at the 2,000 now. Yeah, I am.
You're at the 2,000.
Yeah, because I added the oh boy, Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, and then the last unit of Bulgors. So yeah, they're at the 2,000 now. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna do my next Slow Grow. And then I ended up buying the Reign of the Brute box so that I could get King Trug and then the start of my Trogoths. And then the Flesh Eater Court came up, and I was like, oh god, I need that. That's more important. So
I need that. That's for my heart. I need that.
yeah, it's for my heart. It's for the having one of every faction thing. So yeah, that's what I ended up with. And it's not really Slow Grows anymore because I essentially have a full Flesh Eater Court army now between the special edition box, the start collecting box that you had like from forever ago.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and
yeah,
then,
you have a full army already.
And then there was a box that I got at Gnome Games that week the week of Christmas, but it was like a couple days later.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like on the 29th or something. So I guess it would have been the next week. But yeah, then I got another box, a small Broken Realms box.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was 50% off, so I only paid like $40 for it.
Holy crap.
Yeah, Gnome Games had 50% off all GW product.
Jesus, that's crazy.
Yeah, I bought about $400 worth of stuff and only spent like $190 on it.
Oh my god, that's
yeah, it was great.
So, did you have anything else you wanted to add for Whoa, It's Warhammer? If there's anything else you wanted to jump in, I got everything off my list.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's about it. I mean, so yeah, those are the two armies that I'm somewhat working on right now because my Flesh Eater Courts aren't done because I still want Usharan's model. And then there's a couple other of the character models that I want to get because they haven't released some of them. That's the thing about that special edition box is that the codex the battle tome for Flesh Eater Courts isn't available yet. Like you can't buy it. And I actually had to email Games Workshop because I thought that my book was defective because I kept trying to type the code into the app and it kept saying it was invalid. And it turns out it was because, the battle tome wasn't released yet, so it's technically like I have premium access to the rules for like the first 2 months or something, because I'm pretty sure that stuff doesn't come out until February.
Get a load of this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Cool Guy over here with his advanced copy of the rules.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. There really isn't anything 40K that I give a damn about.
True.
I mean, the crew again. The models look great, and I love the idea that you can play full crew. Like they're getting the Troggoth treatment.
They are getting the Troggoth treatment. So
hopefully,
let's
when the Tau Codex comes out, then you'll be able to just play full crew.
I hope so. We're going to move on to our next topic here that you have titled Season of Blizzcovery.
Yeah.
Is this Blizzard in general, or is this strictly about Season of Discovery?
I was thinking strictly about Season of Discovery and,
Good.
Like our experience with it. And
for phase
how
1.
we've been enjoying it and how, the level cap goes up in like a week.
My God, it does go up in a week.
Yeah.
A week on recording of this.
Yeah. I'll let you take the helm on this one and get your thoughts first, and then I'll spew my garbage.
Sure. So I got like 3 things listed here. I decided to try something new with Season of Discovery. I was really hyped for it, and I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna be a paladin. I'm feeling zealous. And I have really never played a classic paladin before. They never were super fun to me, and during classic I was a spellcaster through and through. I loved playing my mage, but as time's gone on, I've really not really enjoyed mage as much as I thought I would. And so when I started playing my paladin, I'm like, okay, hold on, Crusader Strike, that's pretty nice. Horde of Lordaeron, this is Horde of Winter. I'm getting Paladin vibes. Am I Arthas? It's really cool, all the runes that I was able to get on my Paladin, and that I still haven't got. I like the whole aspect of going out and finding these runes, although some of them are, like, really ambiguous, and I wish there were more hints to them. When I was questing on my mage with, you were with me, Chris, when you were on your Warlock, we ran into the Tower of Azora, and they were all like, we need your help in order to get this specific rune, because a bunch of these guys have been polymorphed inside of Elwynn Forest. And I go, oh my God, that's so cool, because it's like, it's a hint in game of what's going to be going on, without it being a direct quest, but it's also like, I chose to go there. No one chooses to go to the Tower of Azora. There's nothing there, but now there is, and I think that's neat. But there are some of them that are just like, you need to kill like 20 of these Yetis backwards while doing a handstand, and only then will they maybe drop the item that you need. In order to do that, you have to do all this other crap. And I'm like, I thought I was just collecting runes. Some of them are really complicated and ambiguous. Others are like right in your face, like, well, duh, obviously it's right there. And what I want to see in future phases is more of column A. I like going into a random spot that had no purpose in classic World of Warcraft, and all of a sudden there are people there that are like, hey, there's some crap going on, we really need to figure this out, instead of just like, I don't know, man, kill those mobs, they might have a rune. But overall, I'm still having a lot of fun with it. It took me a very long time to get over my stubbornness to look something up. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, that hit all of us.
That hit you and me specifically very hard, because we were very diehard. I'm not looking anything up. I
Yep.
want to just discover it on my own. I really want to feel the discovery. And I believe it was you who said it at one time that I loved hearing it because you just said, "This world is too big. I'm just looking it up."
Yeah, well, it got to the point where, yeah, like the world is enormous, even for vanilla WoW. Like the
Oh
world is
yeah.
so big, and the fact that I have to find, and like some of those are so obscure, so out of nowhere that there's no way I would ever have figured it out with my small brain. And I'm sure there's probably people that like grab stuff and went, "Oh yeah, I know where this goes," or "I ran into an NPC that did this." But I mean, I've been playing the game since 2004, and even I was like, I have no clue. Like, I have
It's
no
hard
idea
to
what.
keep track of all that, man. It's just and
I'm glad that some of the early runes that you get were, I mean, like the first one is just kind of handed to you, but I'm glad that at least the first 3 runes you get are fairly simple.
yeah.
Find a rare spawn and kill it for your specific thing, or
Mhm.
or a rare spawn event. Uh, One is given to you through a quest. One is an item is dropped from a certain thing that you're killing, and then it says to go bring it to this person. So those ones, I'm glad that at least they gave you a couple of them where they throw you a bone, because if all of them were as obscure as use fire spells on a frozen mob somewhere, and you have to stack that fire up 5 times, or like go find this one tiny little space in Hillsbred Foothills that nobody else would ever go there for because the level cap
Mhm.
is what was it, 20 something.
Yeah, it was high.
Yeah, yeah, it is like, it was just tough. It was really tough for some of those, and I get that it's to bring the teamwork aspect to it, and I'm not complaining about that at all, because I liked being able to work together with people to solve a problem or to overcome an obstacle. But it was just, some of those were just a little too obscure for me, and they still are.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping with phase two, like Novergon's gonna be really cool. I'm way more excited for that than whatever the phase one raid was. Like it was like Black Fathom or something.
Yep, Black Fathom Deeps.
Yeah, I'm way more excited for a Nomergon raid than I am a Black Fathom Deeps raid.
Yeah.
Um, I just want more, and I'm gonna be sad when Season of Discovery is gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got a long way before that happens.
No, totally, and it's just it's making me think that I remember when Season of Discovery was talked about, they said that they want to find a way to preserve the characters that you've made for it. I'm wondering how that's going to happen because they're not going to make this a permanent realm.
Well, I mean, they could potentially make it a permanent thing, because uh hardcore is still here. So the hardcore realms are still here, and I know they did the season of mastery, and those characters are just in like regular vanilla now. But it would be interesting to see how they plan on making that its own reward, where you can keep those spunky characters, if you will, from
Yeah,
from the season of discovery.
I think it'd be really cool to have maybe not an achievement, but just like something to show off. Like, hey, by the way, I made it to max level in Season of Discovery. When these characters are eventually transferred to regular classic realms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Season of Discovery is cool. See, Phase 2 is going to be great. I
Yeah.
my other hope for Phase 2 is that we keep adding class combinations with different roles. I think that we had a really cool start with Tank Warlock and Tank Rogue and Healing Mage. I want to see more craziness. I want to see like a Healing Warrior. I don't care.
Oh, that could be pretty cool.
I
Like
really wanted them to get crazy with it.
oh yeah, why not? I think tank priest would be pretty cool. Like, just go full cleric.
Yeah.
Um or dude, I don't know. There's so many crazy combinations you could come up with. Like, it's hard for things like Druid and actually I think it's Druid and Paladin because they already can do it all.
Right. But that's why I'm like, they should be like new class combinations with all this. I just think it's like untapped potential that games, private servers like Ascension have been doing. That they can take advantage of because they have it's like a force phase plan.
Yeah, and that could be cool too. Like if you think like what the future of the seasons are, like maybe instead of so they finish off Season of Discovery, you got all your crazy powers from retail or new stuff that they add in. So let's say the next thing is maybe like Season of, I don't know what a good word would be. Season of Splicing. That's the only word I can think of.
I like it. I like it a lot.
It's essentially you take 2 classes at level 1, or maybe instead of getting going down a spec tree in at level 10, you just get to pick a second class, and then your 2 classes, and you take everything from those classes all the way to level 60 or something like that.
Yeah, it's just there's so much potential with the Season of Discovery and any sort of seasonal thing they want to do. And the thing I always thought of is like once Season of Discovery's done, and then whatever seasons we have afterwards, let's just start rotating them. I mean, that's what RuneScape has been doing for years with their seasonal realms.
Yeah, that could work out really well.
And it works like a charm because people like that kind of gameplay loop, and they like trying different things.
Yeah, I think that would be really good, and it gets you set, and especially if they do make it a sort of like a rotation. So like this year or this, would you want to do it yearly or would you want to do it like quarterly? So for 3 months it's Season of this, 3 months it's Season of that. You could potentially do it that way, but it would at least let people know that this is the thing that they're gonna be able to do for a while. But you'd still have to switch it up because if you just keep rotating the same thing, eventually people are just gonna be like, well, why do I even bother playing?
Right.
That's why totally. I think it would be more beneficial for them to keep those servers up, because then at least people will be like, well, I don't feel like playing regular Warcraft, or I don't feel like playing vanilla Warcraft. I feel like playing the Warcraft where, my Warlock can metamorphose and turn into a tank.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's 100% valid. It's a valid way to play that I think we're at positive lookings with how Blizzard is handling their games. Despite what others might say, War Within is going to be great. Dragonflight, I think, is still a fun game. Retail is still fun in the end of the day. Cataclysm Classic, I think, is going to be slept on for a while, but then people are going to pick it up.
Could be.
From my understanding, not a lot of people are excited about Cataclysm Classic, but I think that once Season of Discovery kind of reaches its apex, and retail WoW is still waiting for War Within, people are going to wait on Cataclysm Classic for like the first month or 2, maybe 3, but then they're going to pick it up and go, yeah, okay, this is fun. I think that's what happened with a lot of these sort of like classic expansions that are coming out, is the fact that they are swarmed in at the start and then they stop. And then swarmed at the start when they stop. Because Cataclysm changed everything and it's not really considered classic in a lot of people's eyes because it did have the world revamp. I think that people are going to halt on it for a bit and then they're going to jump in and have fun. Because the gameplay is still different.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that's even if they put all of the changes that Cataclysm put into the game. So the hope that everybody has, and from what Blizzard explained in BlizzCon this year, which BlizzCon this year was great. I thought it was good.
Oh yeah.
for what it was. I like that BlizzCon is free now. I don't have to pay for a virtual ticket anymore. But I think what all of the hopes that we have and kind of how the classic team worded it is that they're looking to leave the game system that's currently there right now for Wrath Classic, and then just bring it over into Kata Classic, and then just increase the level cap by 5 and add more talents. So I think the goal is to not spec lock you like Cataclysm did, because you were spec locked for
You were.
a long time. Eventually, you got to put talent points into other specializations, but I think you had to put like 40 points into.
You had to
thing.
complete the tree in order to go to the next
That's
one.
what it was. Yeah. So hopefully, they leave it the way it is now, and then people can just do whatever kind of crazy builds they want to do and just see what happens. Because I think that worked out really well for Season of Discovery. Like, they didn't have playtest realms. They basically just made the game and said, go nuts. So I think if they did that for Kata Classic, at least for the first, month or two, just see how it goes. And if everybody's having a great time, except, maybe the PvP crybabies, then, leave it.
Yeah, just leave it. It'll be funny.
Yeah. So I think that could be fun.
But yeah, Season of Discovery, man, good times.
It is a good time.
I don't really have much to add on it because like I've been having fun with it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what comes next.
So, Chris.
Uh-huh.
We've been talking about 46 minutes. And I need you to sit back in your chair, and I need you to take me behind the screen of your DMing and tell me about your times lately with Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, it's been a time.
Yeah? Has it?
Yeah, it's been a time. It's been good. We unfortunately haven't been able to play as often as we would like to because of like scheduling and like holidays always slows it down. So like everything from November to December, we maybe get one session in between the 2 months. And it's not a big deal. I mean, we play long sessions, so like even just having that one session between the 2 months, we still were able to get like an 8-hour game session in, and move the story and the plot along a little bit more. Everybody has done so. We're actually. So this is fun, exciting news to share with everybody. Is we're actually on the very last session of, I guess, season 1, if you will, because after this next session is the 7-year time skip, and everybody, graduates, they get their jobs, and then they become full-fledged smiters.
Ooh, yeah, you've been waiting for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess as a quick recap for everybody who might not know what I'm talking about, but I've been playing the Silver Bullet Society campaign, where it's essentially a school of, I guess, I don't want to say monster hunters. They're essentially, think of, your classic vampire, zombies, werewolves, classic monsters, and it's essentially a Van Helsing witch hunter style school that these kids grow up in, and because it's like a boarding school, and it's essentially like Hogwarts but for monster slayers. And so yeah, they're on their very last session, because this is the session that they'll be going in to do their final exam. And in case any of them are watching right now, I won't say what's going to happen in the final exam, but let's just say that the world is about to come full circle. Some of them might understand what that means. Some of them might not. We'll only time will tell. But yeah, I'm very excited to move on to the next phase of story arcs because this campaign doesn't have like a overarching world story. It's all individual character arcs. So every single player will get 3 to 4 sessions to flush out and make some character progression uh, and advance and conclude their own stories. And that's been working out really well. And that's not to say that overarching stories aren't really good, because I love creating a gigantic world and things in that world to happen. But it's been working out really well having this sort of individual character timeline, and they can tell their own story at their own pace. And it's really the players love being able to essentially make their own choices and or consequences. And
mainly consequences.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, with the things that they've done now, so we've got like our paladin who, going through his story arc, now has beef with a vampire. He's got he found out that he was 1/4 angel, so he's unlocked these Azamar powers that he didn't have when he started the game. What else did he do? Oh, he's being tutored by the leader of the Golden Bullet Paladins, who's essentially adopted him at this point. And he's got, upcoming things for him will be stuff that he's been that he had already dealt with, in parentheses, dealt with. And let's see, the Warlock he's had his half of his soul stripped away because technically it wasn't his to begin with, and then he's been dealing with the separation with his patron and his demon that's essentially been with him since he was a baby. And now he's dealing with finding out some truths about the school and about the Witch Coven, which is like the enemy of the school. So that's very interesting. He's got a contact that only he knows about. So all the other players are very excited to find out what that's all about. And then we've got the barbarian who had his whole story arc where he so his character is a dragonborn who's like the bastard child of Tiamat. And he was basically like just given away and banished. Like he can't turn into a full dragon. He doesn't have any of the powers that his mom has. So he's basically just a nothing to her. And he was traveling with the group for a while, and the headmaster allowed him to enroll in the school, join Squad 10, and then so his whole story arc was actually meeting up with Bahamut and essentially having Bahamut adopt him with his 3 other children that are essentially demigods or demigod dragons. And he took over the role of one of those sons because he ended up being a villain, and now he's the new Storm Warden of the Mortal Realm, and he's got like all these crazy homebrew powers that I gave him, and he's got some pretty cool stuff coming up in his story arc too that, again, I wish I could go into more detail for, but just for the sole fact that they might hear any of this, I don't want to
and it's best to get the reactions from them after the fact. You can tell us about the reactions to it anyway.
Yeah, it's much more exciting when it's like you get the meme faces and they're like, oh, like
there's like soy face pointing to the back like, oh.
Yeah, I've got one player that essentially told me the other day that he doesn't care about the story. He doesn't care about what happens with his character. He's just here to be a spectator. So at this point, I actually skipped his story arc. I said at this point I'm just gonna move on. He's still having fun at the table, but he's not into any of the role play. He just rolls dice when it's his turn. So I'm essentially he's just gonna be there for a little extra damage to balance out some fights. But I'm not gonna bother doing any story stuff for him anymore.
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade-off. You know, he'll provide some extra dice rolls and damage for encounter balancing, and then everybody who actually wants to roleplay will be getting stuff for their roleplay. I think that
Hmm.
works out fine.
I think it does too. I think, and I'm glad that you didn't kind of shun them away or anything. You're just like, okay, well, that's your prerogative.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like my intention is to make sure that everybody is having a good time at the table. I'm not going to shun somebody away because they don't want to role play, because that's not everybody's thing. And this
Mhm.
isn't a very heavy role play adventure. You know, like this is probably the most laid back of any campaign or adventure that I've run.
It's
And
true.
yeah, like this has been a really chill adventure. I mean, and I kind of set that precedent on session 0 when I was introducing them to the world that they were in, or the very very small area that they play in, because they the entire game basically takes place in this forest. That's it. Um, but they the first villain that they came across was, you know, a troll named Kyle the Vile. So it's like,
And
you
we
know,
love Kyle the Vile.
yeah. So you know, I set the precedent, the precedent here, saying this is going to be a silly and fun adventure. And you know, yeah, are there going to be some moments where, you know, like one of the moments that they had was they walked into the chambers of an archdevil and tried to essentially bargain, you know, half of someone's soul to bring back someone who had died. You know, bring back a fallen ally. And yeah, it was a serious. You know, they knew about repercussions in the world. Like, you know, like I like to think I'm a very generous DM in most cases, and will do my best to support things like rule of cool or unique ideas. Um, and we have a rule at the table, because we have a lot of personalities at the table, to
Uh-huh.
where they'll make like snarky comments to some of the things that NPCs will say. And the rule at the table is that, you know, as long as you're holding your D20, nothing you say is in character. So, you know, if you're holding onto the D20 and it's visible, nothing you say is in character, and you know, you can get your little joke out or whatever you want to say. But then, you know, once you put that D20 down and you say something, that's in character. So,
I'm sure there have
the,
been no accidents with that.
as far as I know, there hasn't been. Well, actually, no, there has been, and luckily they weren't heavy repercussions.
I can
But
imagine how much fun that might be for them.
yeah, but there is, you know, there has been a time, like I was saying with the Archdevil thing, that, you know, they walk into that room, and you know, one player holding a D20 is like, just tell this guy to, you know, shove off, and the player not not holding a D20 picks one up and goes, this thing is essentially a god, and I don't want to die. I like my character, and then puts his D20 down and says, you know, thank you, sir. May I have some more? You know, like, so, but
That's awesome.
yeah, I am very excited to uh, finish off this season 1, act 1, whatever you want to call it, the long that we've actually been playing for a total of a year now, this
Oh my
adventure.
god.
So yeah, because we started playing in December of 2022, and we've played all the way through past December 2023. So I think now is a good point to do that little time skip and move on. And everybody's going to be older and have their jobs, and it's going to be fun. I've got a lot of really fun and challenging encounters, and some fun story stuff to do.
Which is, I'm glad you're still coming up with some crazy fun ideas for that, because encounters can sometimes be like the hardest thing to build.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do. Is I've actually, so you were actually in the chat with me one time, because we were playing Sentinels of the Multiverse, and we were
Mm-hmm.
fighting against that weird amalgam boss that had the different
Yeah,
elemental
progeny.
progeny. I looked at that and went, man, that would be a really good Dungeons and Dragons boss. And I've already written down how that whole encounter is going to go. So I like to take inspiration, if you will, from medias, games. It's not always going to be off the top of my head, but being able to adjust it to fit my setting, that could absolutely work out really well. And I think that's what really helps and inspires me to make very gimmicky boss fights, is what one of my players would say. But I look at it as in making interesting boss fights. So it's not just your turn, bonk, your turn, bonk. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
want there to be I want there to be some substance and a sense of urgency in certain fights.
So I'm glad you kind of brought that up for like how you're building your characters, because I'm not, when I'm building my encounters and building my campaigns, something I genuinely do struggle with is the initial string before you can start pulling at it and making it like much bigger and more adaptable. So I remember I told you that I actually started using like Chat GPT for a lot of D&D stuff. And I'm curious about your opinion on stuff like that, because it's not uncommon to see stuff like that for D&D.
Sure. I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion on it. I mean, it's like if it works, it works. Like I'm not going to judge anybody for using that as a supplement, because I mean, as someone who's been, I'm definitely nowhere near a professional writer, but as somebody who has been writing for 20 years about any sort of ideas or medias that I just wanted to, further enhance the story, if you will. Um, I know how hard it is to come up with stuff on the spot. You know, I the condition that I suffer the most through my entire life of writer's block more than anything else. You know,
Mhm.
like, and then I'll go long spans of time where I don't write anything because there's just nothing coming to mind. But so I guess yeah, that's the long answer of me saying it's not really a big deal to me if people do that. If it works for them, and the players aren't making a stink about it. I mean, the players don't even have to know about it, really.
Right, and that's the big thing. It's mainly in the creation process, and I've talked to people about this, and like people using ChatGPT for homework in school and stuff. All that I said, if you're using it as a tool and not as the end all be all, it's actually
Yeah,
like really nice to have. It's good
yeah,
to have that bouncing of ideas when you don't have that person next to you. It's good to get
absolutely.
like a rough start on a vague idea you thought of, and maybe you take one or two of the ideas and you work with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that if there are people that are afraid to, maybe not even afraid, but are like nervous to use Chat GPT for any sort of Dungeons and Dragons ideas, just do it. No one has to know but you. You're
Yep,
not cheating. You need that little extra push, and we all need that every now and again.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't have any issue with it. It's the same thing with like AI art and stuff like that. Like as long as it's not blatantly copying somebody else's stuff, because people do own certain images.
Hmm.
Uh, I use AI art to describe monsters, and I think we've gone over this before on a Blizz Bizz, where I use AI art sometimes to create an image for the monster for my players, because the majority of my players in my group, and when I say majority, there's 5 players, so 4 out of 5 of the players all have that. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a condition that basically 50% of the population has, where they cannot envision things in their mind. Like they can't create images based off of hearing or reading.
Hmm.
So having, that, because I'm no artist by any means, having that AI art to, type in what I want to say or what I want to see, and then it creates a rough image of something that I've already created in my mind, that I can go, yeah, that's close enough, or that's spot on, and then I can show it to my players. So yeah, like the whole chat thing, the AI art, like I don't have an issue with that. I really don't.
See, I'm glad you don't, because there are people that have issues with it, and I think it's more of an ethical thing rather than like people using it as a tool.
Sure.
I can't be screwed to think about it because I have too many ideas going on with both my Western campaign that I'm building, and then you being the a-hole that you are, showing me perfect draw, and now I have to get that.
Isn't that some?
Isn't that something? I have a feeling I might be working on this Western campaign as long as I had Hide Lied, and that took a long time.
Oh yeah, well that's fine. I mean, do you want to talk about your Western adventure? Because
Yeah, I mean,
aside from some of the stuff that we like sort of make quips about, I mean, is there anything new? Do you want to just kind of give the overlay of what you're thinking? Because even somebody in the comments might be able to uh,
yeah.
add a
Uh,
little, have a good idea to share with
I
you as well.
I suppose I'll go for more of an overview for anything, because in terms of like something new, I think of new ideas literally every day, and I constantly am changing the script of what I want to do.
Hashtag my
So
life.
there are two there. I guess there's one major change that I'll get to later that I want to implement in doing just to kind of make the world feel more alive. But the overall the overall theme of all this is I wanted to combine two very important passions to me, and that is the American Civil War, because that's my favorite thing to learn about. But I also wanted to incorporate like a different setting, because high fantasy is great. I love high fantasy, but I feel like an American Western would fit something like that more. And you can incorporate fantasy with high Western to get some really interesting concepts that I adore, like the thought of. So the idea is either a during or post-war land that players are going to have to go into. And I mean, the way I DM is I don't build overarching plots by myself. I don't build. I've learned that making a BBEG for me isn't the most beneficial. I've had players have way more fun and have a more engaging time when it is several small stories rather than an overarching story. So, if you are, whether you're a wanted man, a rich man, or if you are, somewhere in between, are you an outlaw? Are you a sheriff? You have all these different sort of themes that you can build your character off of. And you're venturing together in these barren lands that maybe you're going after a certain gang, maybe you're going after a wanted man, maybe you're just a traveler, a wandering traveler on these unknown lands. It's still very early in the cycle of how I try to build things, and I want to have the conflict be within the world rather than be within the story, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there are things happening in the world that you had no direct influence on, or that didn't have an evil sorcerer come in and change the whole world itself so that that's your target. I'd like the world to feel like it's breathing and it's alive, and you visit a town and there's this whole new culture to this town that you have to learn. And the big thing that I also wanted is I would love for this whole world, this land that I would create. This land is your land. This land is my land. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would love for this world, this land that I create, to be able to house multiple different groups. I thought about it the other day, and there are days where I might not be able to join you guys, or you guys won't be able to join me. And I have other people that want to be a part of this setting, so I just think to myself, what if, like, all of these things are happening simultaneously in this land? Maybe far apart, but simultaneously, and the deeds of someone from one part will come into another person's campaign. It makes the world bigger and sometimes a little more intimidating, but it also makes it feel more living that things are happening in the other side of the world that you have no idea. When you learn about it, you go, whoa, I want to know about more about this guy. And that creates even more that you can work with.
Yep, absolutely.
So I kind of rambled off a lot about all that stuff. Again, it's really early in development. I'm still having ideas of themes of slavery, because that was a big important facet of the American Civil War, if not the most important facet of the American Civil War, that I want to incorporate in this, because I think that makes for an interesting dynamic in character, and it could lead to redemption arcs. It could lead to cursed arcs. It could lead to a bunch of different storylines that are interesting for characters to actually get in there and do. And I'm not the biggest role player. I don't think I role play super well, but I think it would be fun to do something like that. And I think
Yeah.
it makes characters so more morally ambiguous.
It's true. It makes them it makes them interesting, so that you're not just because I don't have a problem with like the Saturday morning cartoon villain. Like I'm all
No,
for
totally.
that, because it does make life easy,
Oh, yeah.
especially as a dungeon master. But I also do like players dealing with like moral conflict, like you were saying, and like all kinds of different things that could be laid out in front of them.
Totally. I guess the only other thing I could say about the land that I wanted to do, again, to make it a little more unique, is I told you about it before when we were talking, but it's that magic is a limited resource. It's not it's not something like a wizard can learn and they inherit and breathe through the world. Magic is a resource. It's farmed. And whether that's farmed through maybe magical creatures that have that innate magic in them, or it's a mineral of some sort. I'm still kind of working out the kinks for that. But the idea that the magic system, the thing that makes various deadly things being limited, also increases that sort of conflict. And if we are dealing in a setting where it's during that kind of war, or during that kind of conflict between two sides that mirror the American Civil War, I think that's one of the easiest things to kind of make that setting around. They have this special weapon that's powered by a certain crystal or a certain magic crystal that is going to give them an advantage. I need you to grab it for me. A simple fetch quest, but now it's been giving so much more context that it makes it feel more important.
Yeah, 100%.
But if you guys have any ideas for that, please also put those in the comments. Give us a shout out. If you're on MySpace, link that to me.
Do love that mind space.
I'm all about not even MySpace, Mindspace. It's the MySpace
That's right.
for Minecraft.
It is 100%.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share from behind the screen?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Well, Chris, we're almost there, but I'd like to know. I have a simple question. What are you playing? What games are you playing?
Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Bait.
I don't get a lot of time for video games much anymore. But when I am jumping on the computer, recently it's been Baldur's Gate, and it's mostly because I just want to get this game over with. It's not that it's bad. It's just that I've had it since it came out, since launch day. Not like the beta or anything like that, but since launch day in August, I've had the game, and I just want to get it done because I've been sitting on it for a while, and then I went like a whole month of not playing at all, and
Totally.
I think it was just time to pick it up again and just at least beat it one time, and then because I've already got 2 other playthroughs laid out, because I want to utilize some of the other characters that I haven't played with, try some other classes that I wouldn't normally play. And then there's even other routes to get to other places that I haven't done that completely change the way that you do things. So, and that wasn't any more apparent than when we were playing just 2 hours ago, and we walked into those goblins with the Drider, and I'm like, oh, I killed those guys in my playthrough, and now they're our buddies.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's just I wanna fully utilize, uh, what Larian Studios has provided for us. So that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, Baldur's Gate is really cool because I've witnessed it, and it's also something I've done. I can play through Act 1 so many times, and it's just as fun. The world is just that big, and the storyline is that vast, that playing through the first act is just as fun as playing through the whole game.
Yeah, feels that way.
It is incredible what that game has accomplished, and despite its a little sometimes glitchiness, it does deserve the awards it got.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely set the bar that AAA companies aren't happy about.
My games are not as fun as yours, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, lay it on me.
So, I've been sort of on a loop right now with a couple of my work buddies. Are you familiar with a Soul Link, Chris, on a Pokemon run?
A Soul Link? No, I cannot say I am familiar.
So, it's a version of the Nuzlocke run. For those who don't know, Nuzlocke is like hardcore Pokemon. Pokemon Fates It's Dead. There are other certain aspects you have to follow. But a Soul Link is basically a multiplayer Nuzlocke, where you and your friends play on the same game, and if a person's Pokemon faints, every one of the other players whose Pokemon was caught on that route is technically considered fainted and dead as well. So all of your Pokemon are linked in that way.
Huh.
So
Okay.
we've been going back and forth for about 2 months now, constantly trying and failing on so many different games. And then we said, screw it, we'll randomize it too. And then we randomized it and kept failing and failing. Multiple times we made it to the Elite Four only to die in the Elite Four. And it was so painful. But very recently we actually did finally, after like, I think 50 to 55 attempts, beat the Platinum version, one of the hardest versions for Nuzlocking. We finally beat that. That was a nightmare. And I felt so relieved. I almost never wanted to pick up Pokemon again. I was so frustrated. What the highlight of that was me losing so mine wasn't the star, but the Pokemon it was linked to were the stars of the other two's teams. I had a shift tree, and not only are the Pokemon we find randomized, but their moves are randomized too. So
Good.
I'm throwing out a shift tree. I'm like, I'm a shift tree. I got full stats. I'm higher level than this guy. It'll be fine. And they throw out a Weedle, and I don't know if you guys know this, but both Grass and Dark are weak to Bug, and a Weedle knocked out my shift tree. I have yet to be able to live that down to them. They got very upset with me.
Yeah,
but I'm like, how is I supposed to know that a Weedle with X Scissor would kill a shift tree when I'm like 4 levels over it? I was flabbergasted.
You did have no way to prepare for that.
I did. There was no way to prepare for it, but that's been a lot of fun. But I've also I've been playing a game that took a while to get set up, but I've been having a lot of fun with it. It's actually it's a 3DS game. Recently, I hacked my 3DS so that I could play pretty much any game I wanted on the I think it's called the H-Shop library.
Okay.
And I got a fan-translated game from Japan for Yu-Gi-Oh! That never came to America, and it's a dang shame it never did. It's called Yu-Gi-Oh! Psycho Card Battle. And I think this game, had it come out in America, would rival that of Tag Force.
Dang, that's some high
So,
praise.
It operates off of speed duel rules, kind of. It has the 3 zones for monsters and spells and traps.
Okay.
It's pendulum era, but it's very smartly designed. The game was actually designed for new players to get into the game. So, one of the best things that it does is you're technically not allowed to make a deck.
Okay.
Instead, you start off with a Gem Knight deck that can't fuse. And you sort of, as you're battling the different players, you actually obtain the ability to craft their pre-constructed decks. And you sort of just play with the pre-constructed decks that you find, whether it's like Laval, Ice Barrier, Nichiria, Moki Moki, Dark Magician Girl. You have these sort of pre-constructed decks with a specific strategy in mind, and that's what you play with.
Huh.
The best thing about it as well is not only is every character voice acted, in Japanese of course, but all the monsters are 3D animated.
Ooh, very cool.
All the summoning animations, all there. Your character that you play as, no matter what deck you're using, will always have a voice line for the ace card. And I think that adds a lot. That adds a lot to what the game is trying to convey, which is, this is the Yu-Gi-Oh! You watched on TV realized in a 3DS game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been having so much fun with that, and it makes me love limited play even more. But my last thing I wanted to add to this is I have just had such a craving for Monster Hunter. I need to start playing Monster Hunter again.
Dude, I'm telling you, let's play some Monster Hunter Rise.
We can play some Rise. I just want to get my PS4 working so I can play World again.
Yeah, that is a fun one. I mean, if you want to go classic too, man, I'm always up for Monster Hunter Generations.
Break out the Wii U before the server shut down. We'll play some Monster Hunter 3.
Yeah, I suppose we could do that.
But no, I mean, like, my girlfriend's sister works at a shop called Too Cool, which is like it's a shop that has a bunch of like collectibles from Japan that they're selling in America, and they have these like mystery boxes for Monster Hunter figures, and I said, you know what, she knows I'm a big Monster Hunter fan. I don't usually collect these anymore. I collected a couple of them, but they're like $18 to $22 a box. So I was like, that's pretty pricey. But I said, I'm your 4th customer for the day. You're not getting any more. Why not? I'm just gonna buy one. And it's from the Sunbreak DLC. I think that's what it's called, from Rise.
Yep.
It's one of the Elder Dragons there. I've never seen it before, and after I open it, I just go, oh, I want to hunt monsters so bad now.
Must hunt monster.
Must hunt monster. I want to fight Nergigante again.
Yeah, man. I actually found your the 3D printed Nannerneck. I can't remember what it's called. The Royal Ludroth.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's been sitting on my bookshelf the whole time.
How the heck did it get there?
I don't think I ever gave it to you.
Oh. Well, hooray! I can't wait to have that.
Yeah, so when you come up in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to give that to you.
Absolutely. But we've been, as if this podcast here wasn't full of enough ranting. Do you have any topic rants before we get to our final section?
I don't know. Didn't you want to rant about somebody being a douche waffle about Yu-Gi-Oh recently?
Oh God! So yeah, add that to my list. I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
Yeah.
So wake up time, kids. I need you to understand. Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not as bad as you think it is. It's really not. So I was at the game shop the other day, and I was supposed to be meeting with some friends. They just kind of no call, no showed me, and I was like, whatever. I'll screw around with my cards. I bought 2 boxes, and I'll get into that later.
Uh-huh.
But this guy sitting next to me, he's a major Pokemon and Magic the Gathering player. And
A major waffle.
a major waffle.
Okay.
And he's like, he starts talking to me, and I'm just showing him, like, yeah, this is my dinosaur deck. It's because all these really cool combos, and it ends on these, like, big dinos that do a lot of damage. It's not great, but it's a fun deck. I love this deck. And he just proceeds to talk on and on and on about how, oh yeah, I had a dragon deck, and it spit out a really big dragon, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And I'm like, cool. I like that you found a deck like that. And then the second I finish that sentence, it's, yeah, but now Yu-Gi-Oh is ruined, and all the cards just do have a million things. I'm like, dude, what the heck? We were connecting. You were so close. You almost had it.
Almost had you. He almost reeled you in.
He did, and it was a constant complaint of power creep bad while he's playing Pokemon TCG. He's complaining about, oh, my cards don't work like they used to, and it's like, they do. You just gotta play with nicer people that aren't gonna hit you with full power Kashtira to zone lock your entire field. Like, you don't have to play with the top tier meta decks. You can play with a less deck, and there's like a trillion formats you can play too. I can't stand, like, you don't like Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. That's fine. I understand that the game has changed, but when you're complaining to this degree because Madragons aren't strong anymore, shut up.
Yeah, that's like me complaining about like my Dragon Druid deck not being as OP as it was before they nerfed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's still strong just because you can't beat people in 2 turns, which is notorious in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like,
well, and that's the thing too. It's only gotten notorious now because everyone, just like in Warhammer, they only want to focus on the high major aspect of this game. Yes, in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, at tournament level play, you're not going to get past turn 2 or turn 3. The game is usually over by then. They have gotten better at it, but yes, typically the game is over by then because Yu-Gi-Oh is a balls to the wall, I'm going to take my entire sack of jewels and smack you with it sort of game, instead of, well, I'm going to gently pour this gemstone on you to see if it'll do any damage.
Yeah.
But the game is so much fun. You just need the right power level around you. And you can have that if you communicate that.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just
the big one. Is you gotta find the group that wants the same thing you do.
Well, yeah, and I think that with the amount of ways you can play Yu-Gi-Oh now, it's easier than people think. For example, are you a Yu-Gi boomer and you hate synchros and everything past? Did you only like Yu-Gi-Oh and Yu-Gi-Oh GX? You need to play Speed Duels right now. They are fantastic at what they want, what you're getting out of Yu-Gi-Oh. It is quick. You're not going to sit there for 3 hours building a board. They have these skill cards that emulate the show because Yu-Gi boomers only want to compare it to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 20 card decks that are dirt cheap. I built the top deck in Speed Duels for $10.
Nice.
And that's Dark Scorpions, by the way.
Of course it is.
It's Dark Scorpions. It's one of the top decks, and I built it for $10. And that's me going high rarity on everything, because I said, I want that in Secret. I want that in Super. I didn't need to do that. I could have got that crap in Common. Are you a player that's like, I liked Synchros, but later Synchros and XCs, I can't really get behind that? Edison format, 2010 Yu-Gi-Oh! Is some of the most fun I've had with Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's pretty much the only format me and my buddy Lester play together. I have 2 decks and one of them is a flip effect bubonic vermin deck that has seen much success, and the other one's a light sworn synchron deck. There's so much potential in Edison that you can build whatever. You can build Umi, and it will work.
What are you talking about? It always worked.
But there's so much. There's so many ways to play this game that finding that power level is all you need to play the game, and there's a community begging for you to play with them.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of that douche nozzle.
Yeah, no problem, man. I remember you saying it, and you're like, I need to talk about this at Blizz Bizz, and we didn't get to record last week, so I was like, let's hear the story.
Speaking of more, I have a list of things I could complain about. I don't know about you, if you have any rants you want to go on.
Not that I can think of that I haven't already ranted about. I mean, I guess, let's see. I don't really have anything about Baldur's Gate to rant about. That's kind of the only game I've been playing.
That's fair.
I'd like to play Lorcana at some point. I have all these cards.
I really want you to play Lorcana too, because I really want you. I want your opinion on the game, because I played in a local tournament, and I think the game is fantastic. I don't think it's the best card game, but I think the game is really fun. Well, obviously, someday we're gonna talk about Chaotic on this show.
Yeah, it'll be. Oh, that could be a fun tier list. A tier list of the best Chaotic cards.
Oh God, we everything would be S tier. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're right. That would be uninteresting. I don't know. It's been snowy, and I hate that. But the weather's warming up, and the rain's coming down, so that's cool.
It's all right. Luckily for you, I have plenty of things to rant about.
Kid's gone for the weekend, so it's nice. And I mean, that's not really a rant. That's actually a good thing.
But all right, this is the any topic portion.
Yeah, it's any topic rant. I guess go for it. And I know there's at least one or two things that happened recently.
So let me tell you the one that's been bothering me the most as of a week. Pal World. There's a lot of controversy surrounding Pal World.
Yeah. Oh, I also remembered mine, so when you're done.
All right. I have been nonstop talked about by my friends. Play Pal World. Play Pal World. If you like Pokemon, you'll like Pal World. I've read so much about Pal World. At this point, I don't care. Everyone wants to say Pal World is stealing from Pokemon, and to be fair, their art style is disgustingly similar, including some of the models. It is, like, one of them I think is called Incineram, with the same color palette as Incineroar, and I'm like, come on, man, you're not trying. You're not trying to be distinguished. Temtem was distinguished. Monster Hunter Stories and Yokai Watch were distinguished. You can't just do this. But then I get my coworker who's like, if you like Pokemon, you're gonna like Pal World. And I asked him, because I've watched gameplay already, and I said, how are these two games similar?
Yeah.
And all he could tell me is that it's just you catch pals. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a survival game. It's not an RPG.
And I watched Moist Critical play 3.5 hours of the game, like on launch or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And watching what he did, the only similarity to Pokemon is that you throw orbs at creatures to capture them. That is it. I mean, you could basically say Cardcaptor Sakura is essentially a Pokemon clone at that point.
Right, and that's the whole thing. And he keeps trying to go, like, nah, you'll like it. Nah, you'll like it. You gotta try it.
No.
It's Pokemon with guns. It's Pokemon with guns. There's no Pokemon involved in this.
No, and you know why I don't like it? Because it's literally Fortnite. It is just Fortnite with little pals that you can capture that give you a couple of new abilities or something. Like, that is what I got from it. It is just a Fortnite clone that's going to be the new big thing because Fortnite's dying and Epic Games knows it. and it's essentially the new survival thing, which Fortnite started out as a PvE survival. So
Yep.
at some point, this is going to get a battle royal, and then it's going to be Pal Royal or something like that.
The best thing in my eyes is everyone's giving all this like credit to Pal World right now, and you know what doesn't deserve it? I don't care. But
Pretty much, yeah.
But here's my thing. Everyone's like, the game's been out a week, guys. These kinds of games that draw up major controversy or that draw up major hype do well on launch. It's been a week. 2 months from now, are these same 2 million concurrent players going to be playing Pal World? No, they're not.
It's true.
And these other people are like, finally, Nintendo's going to have some competition. They're not in the same genre. This is not going to give Nintendo any competition. It's going to be probably a lawsuit, but
yeah, no, they're unfortunately not going to be Game Freak's not going to be able to sue for this one. But
Game Freak won't, but Nintendo will.
I mean, maybe, you never know.
They've made a statement.
Jeez.
They made a statement that they're under investigation, and man, I can't. I hope the devs of Pal World understand what's going on. The only thing they had to do to fix this was just to say, we don't want any similarities to Pokemon. We don't want anything like that. The person that made the mod that turned the Pals into Pokemon, the devs of Pal World should have been going after them, not Nintendo.
Yeah, I disagree with Nintendo's. They shouldn't do a lawsuit because that just makes them look scummy. Because if they didn't have the intention of making it a Pokemon in quote game, that's not on the developers. Like if everybody else says that's what they're comparing it to, that's just what the audience is saying. That's what the community is saying. That's not what the developers were saying. So I actually think that Nintendo is in the wrong on this one. And as much as I don't like Pal World or anything about it, the credit that I will give it right now is that it is, like, with the overwhelming numbers that it has right now, it is blowing Game Freak and Pokemon stuff out of the water right now. And I think that it's another Baldur's Gate 3, not like I'm not comparing the two in any way gameplay wise or what they actually do, but it's another indie developer that made something huge that makes AAA companies shaking or quake in their boots. And I think that needs to happen. You know, it doesn't necessarily need to be the Pokemon competitor, but it should make AAA companies scared and maybe make them put a little more effort into their games. You know, because Pokemon unfortunately has the problem of creating the same game for the past 30 years. So,
but here's my argument, and again, I'm a shill for Pokemon. We've talked about this in the games that made us who we are. But the big thing for me is I think Pokemon has been making major changes to their game, you know, since it came out. People don't really see it because the core gameplay of Pokemon is the same, but it's the nuanced changes, I think, that make the biggest difference. In terms of, like, of Game Freak trying to step up, or Nintendo trying to step up, they kind of did. After Scarlet and Violet was not very successful. I thought the base game was fine, but I understand why it was not successful. And they had come out with a statement before even the DLC was announced that said, we need to stop doing annual releases. Which was their biggest crutch to Scarlet and Violet. If Scarlet and Violet had another year or two in the tank, it would released flawlessly. But they were on a time crunch. So now the idea is we're going to stop annual development for Pokemon. And it's going to come out when it's ready. Especially with the next games being kind of hinted at as being the Gen 5 remakes, and how much that game has garnered so much more popularity since its inception.
I mean, if it does force them to do better, if their own flaws force them to do better, I hope that these indie companies, seeing a lot of business, I hope that also, forces them to do better as well.
And I hope Pal World does succeed. I don't think it's a game that shouldn't exist. I don't want it to come off like that. The game should exist. I think if that's the style of gameplay that people like right now, survival with little critters, cool. That 100% could be a genre of game that I can understand people liking. It's not for me, and we also need to remember one more thing. The game released on Game Pass, so its numbers are going to be a little more up than people who actually bought it.
Yeah.
So temper expectations with it, because there's a chance the developer is like, I can't do anything more. We're 40 people. Like, there's not much we can do. We'll see what happens. Again, I hope the game succeeds, and I really hope they just start differentiating themselves from other creature capture games, and that they themselves talk out and say, we are not competing with Pokemon. We are not trying to copy Pokemon. Because they never said that. They're just letting this run out. But if they come out and say it, that says a lot more about them.
Yeah, a little more genuine, if you will.
Exactly. So you had another rant, correct?
Yeah, I guess, like, thinking about it, it's not really a rant, it's just more of like a share. But so we had that big snowstorm. I believe it was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was like 2 weekends ago. We had that huge snowstorm here in like the Midwest area, and it we were supposed to play Dungeons and Dragons that weekend, and it ended up being where everybody was shoveling snow for 2 hours the day prior, and then they were shoveling snow after it finally stopped falling on Saturday morning for another 2 hours, and the majority of the group was basically like, I'm not gonna drive in this crap. And I was like, I get it. It's whatever. But I I actually had two people from that group that were like, hey, we cleared our Saturdays, so we're still up to come if you want. And I said, you know what? I've got a whole book full of one shots and other little board games that we could play. So you know what? Come on over. We'll make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did a fun little one shot that day. And it was only like 4 hours long, but I got to use a bunch of like dinosaurs that I've never used before, so that was pretty fun.
God, I want to use so many dinosaurs. They're just so
Yeah.
cool.
Like I so one of my adventures that I have set that I wanted to make like a full campaign was called Escape the Prehistorium, and it was
Oh
basically
no.
just like a whole uh sort of massive island of dinosaurs that they're trying to get off of. And that's not necessarily what we played, but I use that as my base ground. And uh what my players don't actually know is that I didn't have anything in that one shot book set for the Prehistorium. I basically wrote Prehistorium, put a line under it, and then closed the book and put it behind my DM screen and said, this is fine. So the entire 4 hours was basically whatever just came out of my mouth and whatever was creating it in my head as we were going.
What a good. Honestly, no. Honestly, what a good exercise as a DM.
It really was. It was just like, here's a title of the adventure. Go nuts.
Like, I genuinely think if you have time with your players, that's such a fun activity to do, because it counts on everyone having a part in that. The DM having to flex their hyper creative and improv muscles to basically create an entire one shot. And the pressure is there's less pressure because it is a one shot. There's no overarching story or acts to this. It's, we're gonna finish this in a few hours.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like the pressure, I guess, if you want to use that, is the pressure is on the DM to make sure that you're coming up with something for your players to do. But there's less pressure on the players because there's really no repercussions. Because I set it up to where I told them, I said, you guys are playing the characters from Silver Bullet Society, but you have none of the knowledge from that campaign. I'm literally just picking you up and plopping you into this world. And then they were like, so the opening sort of description was, I said, oh, Sleeve, Elrond, you find yourselves in the middle of the jungle, not a forest, the jungle. And you're tracking your breakfast. You're following the blood trail that you took like a nick off of one of their sides, and you're trying to keep up with it, or else you're gonna go hungry this morning. So it basically just started off with them trying to kill a tiny raptor for breakfast.
That's such a cool way to start the game. Even though it's just plop them in the middle, it's still really cool to see that.
Yeah, and it gave them, because there were no repercussions essentially to their actions. They could have just the couple of NPCs that they walked into, they could have just snapped their necks and moved on. And if they wanted to play villains or murder hobos, this would have been the time to do it. But because they've evolved so much as players, because I've watched them from the beginning where they were just murder hobos, to now where they care about these characters, to where even if I pick them up and plop them in a completely different world, they still want to be the good guys. And I'm like, my job here is done. Like,
yeah, that growing as a player is so cool.
Yeah, and like they wanted to help out these people with their food shortage, and they went and hunted some triceratop to bring back to them. And then the guy revealed that there was supposed to be like a catastrophic event headed towards the village that they were a part of, but then they left because they knew that this thing was coming. And it ended up being like I got to use my first gargantuan monster. So I used
how was that?
Oh, that was fun. It was a lot of fun. I used I believe it was in that Book of Giants that I got for Christmas. There is a like gigantic like brontosaurus or brachiosaur, but it's covered in an outer layer of rock, so it's basically a moving mountain.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I got to use that heading towards the village, and I wanted to make the encounter tough because my players are level 10, and there were 3 of them, and they had a healer. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this a little more difficult, and I gave it a rechargeable meteor spell. So,
oh my god, not the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Yeah, pretty much. But I modified it a little bit because meteor does 20d6 fire damage and 20d6 bludgeoning. I just changed it to where it only did the 20d6 bludgeoning.
It didn't reach fire. It's just a rock falling off of him onto them.
Well, yeah, that's what it was. Like every time they smacked it and did a considerable amount of damage, parts of him would fall off, which is then the meteor spell.
That's so cool, man.
So yeah, it was just a goofy, fun little one shot that I almost thought, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna TPK these guys. Like it's pretty crazy.
And like that would have been funny if you did, because even they'd crack up about it.
Oh yeah, and Ashley hasn't played since she got pregnant, so she hasn't been playing for what, we're in 7 months now. She hasn't been playing at all, and she finally was feeling good enough to jump into this shorter session. So she played, and she got to do something she doesn't normally get because she's the healer. She got the final blow on the gargantuan brachiosaur. Like she decided to use one of her, I think she has like a 6th level spell slot, to use inflict wounds. So she just walked up to it and just went bam, 50 necrotic damage.
Oh my god.
She's like, I'm done healing.
I'm done healing.
50 flat necrotic damage, and I was like, well, how do you want to do it? It's dead. Everybody on the table is like, yeah, the cleric killed the dinosaur. So,
oh my god.
It was very fun. It was a good time.
Listen, I will never forget about Dowdy Tell-All, okay?
Oh yeah, the players didn't never forgot about Donatello either, and even the barbarian who was very much into Donatello and holding on to his magic witch beating stick, and and then and then traded it away.
And traded it away.
Yeah, he doesn't
I
have
could
it
have come
anymore.
back as like his wisdom spirit, and now I can't because he traded it away.
He traded the stick away for another stick that had a big stone hand at the end of it. The
I'm so hurt.
the Gluteus Maximus.
Ah, yes. A very powerful weapon indeed.
Yeah.
Don't worry, his lessons will never be forgotten.
There's another magic item. So I've actually found a couple of magic items online that I'm not going to give my players now because they would never use them because they're more for lower level adventures. So whenever I start up the next campaign, which will probably be another year, they've got to get through the time skip adventure now.
They do.
But whenever I start that up, there's a couple of magic items that I found that are just they are fantastic, and I want to share at least two of them with you here.
Please do.
This first one is called the Arrowless Bow. So it's a bow, it's a magic bow, and the flavor text for it, if you will, is release the empty string, and an inanimate object nearby will fling itself in the direction you aim.
Oh my god.
You just like pull back the string, let it go, and then a chair goes flying like 120 feet.
I need that, but with like a grand piano, and then you get like a Wile E. Coyote sound as it comes down.
Yeah, 100%.
That's freaking incredible.
And then I found another one called the Decanter of Infinite Bees.
That sounds terrifying.
When opened, it releases 3d4 swarms of bees.
Why would you unleash that upon people?
It's pretty great. Let's see, what does it say? Animal handling, friendship can be used to control the bees, but they are otherwise unable to be controlled.
Unable to be controlled. This swarm heals to no master.
Yes. One of them that I did use was that, and I think I told you about it, was the ring of finger guns.
Yes, I love that weapon.
Yeah, so that one my barbarian has. So my my Storm Herald barbarian can also point his fingers at you and shoot magic missiles out. But he has to make a pew pew sound or it doesn't work.
Oh, absolutely. You absolutely need to make the pew pew sound.
I stole that one from the Warcraft card game with the zombie encrusted finger.
Yes!
Where you have to make a zombie moan or else you don't get Assault 1.
Back when the game was good.
Yeah. Well, back when the game existed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. That was my again, not really a rant, just a story I wanted to share.
I got one more thing on my rant escapade here. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh one, so bear with me.
Lay it on me, boy.
So, a new set came out called Maze of Millennia. Really cool set. It introduced the Flame Swordsman archetype.
Oh yeah, you did tell me about that.
But there's a specific card that caused a lot of controversy in the Yu-Gi-Oh community called Bonfire. Bonfire is reinforcements of the army, but for pyro monsters.
Yeah.
Now, this card has... It is being said that this card is going to be one of the mainstays and one of the most important search cards for the next year. And it pre-sold. Keep in mind, pre-sold. So you can buy singles on like TCG Player before they actually come out when the whole set is known. And the pre-sale for Bonfire was going for about $126 a copy. You needed to play 3 of these in a relevant competitive deck. Now, this caused a lot of controversy because people were like, well, now Yu-Gi-Oh's too expensive because top-tier competitive decks now are costing in the ballpark of about $1,000.
Yeah.
Now, here's my thing. The card is good. It is probably going to be the top tier meta contending card that you'll need. But we can see that now, I mean, I don't have it on my screen right now, but the pre-sale price was $126. The card's now down to $90. Is $90 still pretty expensive for one card that you need a 3 of? Yes. But a $40 drop is a $40 drop.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think the card kind of is going a little more up again. I think there was a small boycott of it, and now people are like, well, screw it, I have to buy the card. It's back up to 90. It went for a while. It went down to like 82, but now it's back up to 90. Last I checked. But my entire point of that, of bringing all that up, was I think people in card games and video games and all of these kinds of hobbies and games get so tunnel visioned on the best thing that they kind of forget that the game encompasses more than just the top thing.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't encompass just the top decks. There are so much more to this game, and oftentimes you don't need the top contending cards to be the best. Stuff like Ash Blossom and Nibiru and like hand traps, you do kind of need, but they're relatively inexpensive nowadays, so it's not a question. It's like, I think the most expensive is like $8, which you only need 3 of them. It's not a deal breaker for $8. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the most generous companies when it comes to reprints. They're more generous than Magic. They're more generous than Digimon, which I don't think has had a reprint set. You can't really count Pokemon because Pokemon doesn't make money from their card game, so they can do whatever the heck they want. Konami has been hyper generous with their reprints, especially when they did the Rarity Collection, which made cards that were about $40 a copy down to $3 a copy.
Jeez.
And they're actually getting a second one coming up, probably I think in July or June, something along those lines. We have a second Rarity Collection coming out that's going to change everything. And I don't know, man. It really sucks that it really sucks that people kind of get up in arms about this kind of stuff, because in the end, prices are going to go down, the card's going to get reprinted, and you don't need to spend the money on the top engine or the top, searcher for this. People generally got away with this earlier on in Yu-Gi-Oh! They're like, oh, well, this card that negates effects like Infinite Impermanence, this is a really good card, and it is a really good card. And at the time, it was like $30 a copy, and you're like, well, I can't afford that. So people opted in to play Forbidden Chalice, which is a card that also negates, is a quick play spell, which has different utilities as well, and it was only like $1 a copy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, sometimes it's about finding the compromise, sometimes it's about that. It's not about, oh, well, you have to pretend to like budget or anything like that. No, there's so much that you might not be considering in a 10,000 card pool that maybe, just maybe, you could take a look at it again, or maybe just don't play that. It's an Ultra. You're going to probably pull one out of the box. If you spend $80 on the box, you get 24 packs worth of cards and probably a bonfire.
Yeah.
But that's my final rant.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something. I think that you've been in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene for a while to pretty much know what you're talking about. So
yeah. If you were turned off by Yu-Gi-Oh, please, I'm begging you. You just need to give another chance. There's a new 2-player box that just came out that walks you through the rules if you haven't played in a hot minute. pick that up. It's $20, and you will rediscover why you love this game. But with no more rants, is there anything else you'd like to add to the podcast, Chris?
I don't know. You kind of compound the any topic rant session with your special summon Yu-Gi-Oh talk.
I did. And the reason is because, in all honesty, I talked also about it earlier in I think it was in the video games you play or in a different rant one. Because all I got on here is Yu-Gi-Oh is dying in quotation marks, meant to be sarcastic. Enjoying the game at your own level. We talked about that. The game has changed for the better. We kind of talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
I think I kind of got my point across about my favorite card game.
Nothing wrong with that.
But with that, I do think we got everything out of our way. So thank you everyone for joining us for another wonderful episode of what are we calling this? Blizz Bizz, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's called like business school. That's something like that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us for our seminar at TED Talk. We really appreciate you. And Chris, do you have any final words for our lovely viewers?
Oh yeah. Be on your guard for the Imperial Guard, and be ready for the tier list that comes in the next video, because we like our tier list.
We do like our tier list. Hi, thanks for watching. If you have any more suggestions for topics or anything that you'd want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments below. As always, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that like button, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Blizz Bizz. Rock on, gamers.